Good evening and welcome to this. I think this is the last panel discussion, right, for Kashish. And I hope you guys have had a fun time at this festival. I'm Dhamini, and this panel discussion is on young, emerging filmmakers. We're going to open up this panel. We're going to sort of ask each of the filmmakers to talk a bit about the films for the benefit of those of you who perhaps have not caught their films.
This is my first time at Kashish. My film was Faceless. It's a short film of 12 minutes and 29 seconds. The premise behind my film was to explore the experience of discrimination within the gay community. Because when I moved to Canada, the ideas of liberty and freedom and equal rights to all people came into question because I found myself as a non-white minority within the larger white majority gay community in North America that I was kind of trying to be part of, perhaps. So the attempt with my film was to start a discussion of what it means to be a minority within a minority.
This is my first time at Kashish, which is a very, very lovely and amazing festival that they've been having in India. So it's my first time in India as well. And actually I had the opportunity to have both of my film here to this festival. My first film, Barely in Love, deals with a young boy, which is 18 years old, that actually be coming out of the closet, but his mother always know that. And she's trying matching him with girls, hoping that someday he will find a bride. And it doesn't happen. And my new film is actually longing to tell the story about Michal. She is a woman. She is the leader actor of the film, who is married to an homosexual man. And the film is following by her, by how she's coming term to this.
My film is about a widow mother who come to know about her son's sexuality. She is illiterate, she is not educated, she is working as a maid at some home, and when she come across to this thing, how she react, how she accept, when she don't even know the meaning of gay, what gay is. She never had a single thought about a guy can fall in love with a guy. So how she deal with the topic. So that it's about that.
I just wanted to place my film in such a way that, you know, in the Tambaram culture, heterosexual unmarried affairs were itself a taboo back in the 1960s, 70s. So I was just thinking, what if back then, if someone was homosexual, what would have been how would the scenes be? So my film is more of a journey film from the 1970s to the present era. So this film is all about having closure in the end. So yeah.
No, and what I found very interesting about your film also was that it talks about love between two older. I mean, the protagonists are shown starting as young men to the time when they're both old, and that I found very interesting.
So the premise is actually it's a thin line between friendship, companionship, and love. You know, like when you grow up with a person, I think that's how I treated the film. Like if you grow up with a person where you only had one best friend, and there seems to be a very thin line between when do you know it's friendship, when do you know it's love. You know, you never tend to realize. There's no hard and fast rule that, oh, should I just fallen in love with this person? Like, you know, there's this connection and you grow with this affection, and it goes out to be something much more than friendship, but you can't name it.
So the film that I was part of was this anthology of 4 short docu pieces called Tell Me Your Story. There were 4 directors who didn't meet each other. So what happened was there were these 4 films which spoke of very different stories, personal stories, which sort of tackled those stories with their own set of visual politics and aesthetics, and each of them was so unique in its way and so diverse. Each film dealt with a separate topic. Mine dealt with labels, one dealt with a transgendered individual, one dealt with the struggles that a lesbian woman in today's society faces, one dealt with a female to male transsexual and her experience in the whole transition process. So each of them is a very diverse piece, and almost basically it all comes together to show the various colors of the queer flag, so to say.
I wrote this story before 2 years, and the movie talks about a mother who is a Brahmin and she has accepted her son very gracefully, but she comes to know that the Brahmin son is in love with a Dalitka. And that's the time the climax. Then she talks to the son and she's like, how can I accept a Dalit guy in my family? So the movie talks about 2 different issues. I tried to mix them. homosexuality and casteism.
A lot of what you talk about in your film, which is essentially, segregation, that multiple realities exist, multiple prejudices exist. Sometimes we may not be aware of it, and to ascribe identity, one has to understand various aspects of one's position, right? And that kind of brings me to your film, Karan, because that's what you are also doing at one level through your protagonist, exploring different segregation.
And I just want to quickly talk about labels, because I think labels was brought up, and I think it kind of ties into this whole discussion about segregation. And I do feel that for some people who are kind of beginning their journey, these labels are important. It is important to kind of identify yourself being, oh, I'm gay, or I'm bisexual, or I'm what have you. And I think that is this sense of affirmation of their identity within either the queer community or the larger society, as it were. And now coming to this whole segregation, I think that unfortunately human beings are just by nature prejudiced. Can we actually break these barriers and not have these segregations? I don't know. I think queer politics is going through this interesting churning upheaval where we're dealing with a lot of issues. We're dealing with fighting for our rights. We're dealing with struggle for equality. We're dealing with just acceptance. In my experience, specifically, I think transphobia is a huge problem within the community, which is not talked about, which is not addressed, and they remain at the fringe of this whole political discussion. And that, I think, is something we need to focus on.
Is there any such thing as an LGBT film that is just tackling sexuality and can sort of ignore issues of everything else that automatically are part of our life?
Right now, I feel LGBT and Indian LGBT cinema, they both are traveling, they are on the journey, and can't say because before I'm making movies, I was with the thought that when I went to some festival, it's always about coming out and Rona Dona, then suicidal or HIV. Only these three issues were handled in last 2-3 years. But now, somewhat this year and last year's movies after watching, I feel at least we are progressing and we are on that journey. So issues will be there till we solve main issues.
Tell us a bit about what led you to choose this particular aspect.
See, honestly, like I told you, that the Section 377, there were a lot of issues happening at that time, but honestly, that was not the issue. When my writer had written this, he had written it about two friends. Like at least when he narrated to us that it's about two friends and this, I don't know how, but I could see that this film is not just about two friends. Like if you see, like act like frame by frame, I mean scene by scene,
Yeah.
you will realize that this is just not about friendship. And I just thought we need to take a stand as to whether it's going to be about homosexuality or is it going to be a straight on your face about friendship, and that's the call I took.
You mentioned in the beginning about your film when you were talking about the different kinds of families.
Yeah.
So if you could sort of tell me a bit about the fact there are multiple realities of LGBT lives within the LGBT community.
Okay, with perspective belonging is actually when I actually did this film, I asked myself what will happen. This is the question that I was asking myself, if I will get married. So this is this part of question is a lot of LGBT people, which are religious, questioning about themselves. In Israel, it's quite of we have Tel Aviv, which is the most LGBT, I think, friendly town in the Middle East and the Western as well. And still, it has a problem. It has a problem to receive, to accept. And now there's contractions of families. So my film is actually showing what will happen if our society will push them and will not understand deeply their conflict with that. They believe that you can change your sexuality,
Sure.
and this is some kind of thing that the society is
Right.
structuring ourselves.
Right.
So this is what I'm trying to raise in my film.
Which is-
to rise in my film.
Right. And it's really interesting because Vaibhav, I think that your film also tackles exactly how, when Nadav talked about the pushing of the boundaries within families. I think that that's exactly what your character is also doing.
Yeah, exactly. She is a kind of woman ki she like कि कुछ भी हो जाए तो like भगवान है, someone is there, I'll do fast and all, kind of religious woman. So when I was thinking how she is gonna accept her child, so I was thinking that there should be someone who should make her understand, and then I bring another mother The reason of bringing other mother, only a mother can explain. Mother, that how she is gone through and what she did. You should not do the same with your child, because what I did, I am feeling regret about it. I did something wrong. Now I am feeling I tried everything.
Right.
But if you are gonna do the same thing, you will be at my position. You will accept your son later on, because there is no other option. There is no option. It's what your kid is.
What you're trying to say is that the pushing of these boundaries and allowing the family to sort of open up, the idea
Yeah.
of acceptance comes with this internal journey
Yeah, or it's
that
about-
happens through relating with somebody who's gone through a similar internal journey.
Exactly.
But what I feel that the issue has becoming the issue right now. If the film is showing the issue, then yeah, it's a film. But then the film is losing its essence. Like a film needs to be a film end of the day. Not an entertaining film. It can be a boring film, but film should look like a film. But I'm not offending anyone, but I somehow felt the issue is just dragging in there and you are forced to see the issue and not anything else in the film.
I agree with you to an extent because as a student of cinema, I watch a lot of films. And when I started out, obviously you kind of learn how a film is structured. There's a narrative structure, there's the beginning, the middle, and the end. Whether it's a short film or a feature film, I think there is the language of cinema that needs to be used to tell a story. Whether it be it advocacy, be it a fictionalized discussion of any issue. So unfortunately, I think that yes, because, and the reason for the lack of a cinematic language in all films we see is because we have more access. We live in a digital age in 2015. Any person in the world can just pick up a camera or a cell phone and make their story and call it a film. As cinema critics, we can actually say that that's not a film because it does not follow a cinematic language. And on the flip side, we say that, well, people have access to tell their stories, so they should be allowed to tell their stories. I don't think it's good or bad. I think it's a question of perspective. Some people prefer not to follow that and just kind of tell their story the way they want to, be it advocacy or not. And some people would like to stick with their language of cinema, using the tools that are known to filmmakers and make cinema that way.
Sometimes I find in a movie that is there a compulsion to actually make an actor or a character perform a certain way or certain set of mannerisms to make that person come across from a certain, sexuality.
I have a little bit of a problem with that because if you're saying, someone who's effeminate that's what we are showing. People are effeminate. There are people who are effeminate. Why not show that? But I agree when you're saying that that's the only thing that we see. But then I don't think that stands true for a festival like Kashish. Because at a festival like Kashish, you see a multiplicity of queer identities, and the kind of work that we are seeing is, a testament to that. So that way your observation I don't think holds true for a forum here. But if you're talking about mainstream mass cinema, I agree to some extent. Bollywood in particular.
Primarily, the kind of movies one has seen at this festival are a reflection of reality. But what I've noticed is what is missing is imagination. We are not imagining a new reality. What if things were not this bad? What if these issues were not there? So any take on that? Did you guys ever think of creating a film?
In India, we are in a socio-political place where we need to see these because look at a country like USA, which we all sort of end up thinking that the American media is sort of forward that way. But today, imagine today when we are talking about all these issues, it is only today that there are shows which showcase a person with, let's say, I'm talking about a show like, let's say, Orphan Black, where there are multiple characters with multiple queer identities and they just happen to be. There is a woman who's lesbian and that has no bearing on the plot at all. And that's the reality we will come to. But then today, to reach that point, you have to traverse a distance, and this is the distance that we are traversing.
When we're looking at the LGBT film as a category, do we look at personal stories a lot more than other kinds of scripts? Is that something that you directly access as an emerging filmmaker?
I guess important that there is a personal aspect of myself that gets reflected in my work. I also wish to push my boundaries as an artist and explore things that I don't know through my work. Whether that's legitimate or not, I don't know. Whether that will stay true to what I'm talking about, I don't know. But then as an artist, I guess I have the freedom to create what I want to say.
very often a director will begin with a short film and then will expand it into a feature later on if the short film is successful.
Every story, it has its own particular time limit. So my particular perspective is, if whenever you write a story or plot, it has its own limit. If you convert that particular story into the feature film, it will be dragged out of story. It will be dragged, it will be stretched. Then the fun element of that particular story or the theme will be maybe spoiled.
When we were writing the script, we decided, can we make this as a comedy? Like two cultures meeting, like if a Dalit family comes to Brahmin guy's family, what are the comedy scenes might happen? Like that family wearing lots of gold and Brahmin family being like very decent and all. So if I get a chance, I can make a comedy film, the comedy feature film out of this script.
Thank you very much. It's been a great audience. Thank you for being here.